My yearly goal for 2022 is to talk a lot about Indian books, which is why in today's video I'm going to talk about top Indian horror books. Now, horror is not such a popular genre in India, but in my mind, horror is a very popular genre in India. A lot of Indians want to read horror novels. It's just that the options that we have in terms of horror literature in India are fewer. But look at Neil De Silva. He has given a different sort of charm to horror genre, and I expect that horror genre is going to grow and a lot of writers will write a lot of great Indian novels that would be great horror. Anyway, moving into this video, I'm going to talk about a few horror books that are already very popular, and these are not recommendations, quite like my other videos that come up every Sunday. In case you have not subscribed, subscribe right now for catching all of my videos. These are not recommendations, these are just research based books that I found very popular or interesting. So without further ado, let's get started. Number one book is That Night by Nidhi Upadhyay. So an Ouija board experiment goes wrong, and these are these four college friends, and one person from the college ends up dying due to this experiment. Now, after a few years, these friends are being haunted or stalked, and that is what this book is about. This book has got quite a lot of ratings, 750 plus ratings on Amazon, and it seems like a highly promoted book to me. Okay, the author is based in Singapore right now, and it is just being talked about a lot as a horror novel. But I feel like that is also because of a lot of promotion. But if you have read the book, let me know what you think about this book. Okay. Number two book is Maya's New Husband by Neil De Silva. Neil De Silva is a very famous author who has made his name in Indian writing by writing a lot of horror novels. So I would not talk about most of his horror novels because I have a whole author spotlight video in which you can find out more about Neil De Silva's work. But Maya's New Husband is a book that came out in 2015 and has been very popular in the horror genre ever since. And there is also a sequel that came out which I talked about in one of my videos on popular Indian novels of 2021, which I will link down below in the description. And this book has also been acquired to be adapted into a movie. Now, it happens a lot many times with Indian authors that the books rights are acquired for adapting into movies, but then nothing really comes out of it. I really hope this gets adapted and gets really popular, because all Indian authors who are writing good books, they deserve that kind of fame and they deserve that kind of recognition. Anyway, this book is about this evil shadow that is lurking in the suburbs of Mumbai, and it's sort of like stealing and kidnapping and maybe killing these able-bodied people. And then we have Maya, a school teacher who is trying to get over a personal tragedy, and then she finds a new husband, and then all the horrors begin, and that is what the book is about. Now, I have not read the book yet, but I am very excited to read this book. This is like the number one book that I'm most excited about in this whole list. Anyway, moving on to the book number 3, which is Haunted by J. Alani and Neil De Silva. Now, J. Alani is actually a real-life paranormal investigator, and this book chronicles his journey as a real-life paranormal investigator through 10 of the most spooky locations in India. Now, there is this one thing that I have noticed about Indian horror novels. That is that most of them are collection of short stories. I have read a few, for example, Ringa Ringa Roses by Neil De Silva and The Other Side by Faraz Kazi and Vivek Banerjee, and both of these books were somewhat disappointing to me. So you can really say that I am not a fan of short stories when it comes to horror novels or short stories in general. Over time, I have just lost my interest for short stories. Anyway, number 4 of the most popular Indian horror novels is Ghosts of the Silent Hills by Anita Krishan. This is a collection of short stories based on real life incidents, and as evident from the name, the short stories are mostly based around the hilly areas. And I feel like hills just give a chill vibe in itself when it comes to, experiencing hilly areas at night, and it just sets the perfect atmosphere for telling ghost stories. Anyway, Anita Krishan has lived in Shimla for 22 years, and she sort of channels that experience she had while living in these hilly areas and just makes it into a book. She has also written other contemporary fiction that you can check out if you want to. I will link her Amazon page down below. All the books that I'm mentioning in this video are actually linked down below in the description in case you want to check them out, okay? Next is India's Most Haunted by K. Harikumar. This is again a collection of short stories which brings you some stories from some spooky locations of India. For example, Bhangarh Fort, Tower of Silence in the Malabar Hills, and the Khuni Nala from Jammu and Kashmir. This book has 50 short stories, and by the same author, there's another popular horror novel, sort of horror novel, that is called The Other Side of Her, which was also adapted into a TV series called Brahm. Next is A Faith in the Dark and Other Hauntings by Ruskin Bond. Now, Ruskin Bond is a very popular author in India. I have done 2 author spotlight videos on Ruskin Bond that I will link down below in the description, and he also happens to write a lot of light horror novels. So if you want to get something for yourself which is light horror, or if you want to just read something spooky to your kids, because kids sort of enjoy these kind of spooky stories, at least I used to do that when I was a kid. So if you want to, read these stories out to your kids, you can just pick up a Ruskin Bond horror novel. This particular one has this very popular short story of Ruskin Bond and then some other short stories. Number 7 book is Ghosts in a Backyard. This is actually a non-fiction that is based on the Ramsay brothers. Now, there was this guy called F.U. Ramsay who had about 7 sons who are popular in Bollywood as Ramsay brothers. So these brothers actually made these very low budget horror movies. They made 30 plus such movies, and are considered to be the pioneers of horror genre in Bollywood. And this book actually tells about their life and their encounters with the supernatural, while they also work, on all of these movies that eventually became sort of cult classics. The author is actually the granddaughter of F.U. Ramsay. Next is Nagin by Mayur Didolkar. Now, if you go to Amazon and check out this book, you will see that there are not many ratings of this book, and it doesn't just seem to be that popular of a book. But I do have a copy of this book on my shelf, and I have read a few short stories from this book, and I found it very promising. This book was actually gifted to me by Juggernaut, so I'm just like very thankful to them for introducing me to a horror novel, because it's actually very hard to find horror novels in Indian literature, okay? At least as per my experience. If you know a lot, just let me know in the comments down below and prove me wrong, okay? Anyway, this book, why I found it very promising, it kind of takes a lot of elements from Indian culture, It's not just about ghosts. Ghosts are a very normal thing, but it talks about nags and nagins, wish kanyas, black magic, and all of that stuff. And, the stories are really cool. I have read about like 5-6 stories from the book, so yeah, I can tell you. So I haven't finished the book, but I should do that very soon. Anyway, let's talk about the 9th book in this video. That is Afterlife, Ghost Stories from Goa by Jessica Filero. Now, I'm interested in this book because, this is one book that I found in this whole list that is not set in hilly areas, okay? Mountains make a very nice ghost story setting, but Goa is one of my favorite places. So these stories are set over there. So this is actually about this family that gets together in Goa after a long time, and then the lights go off, and then they start talking about some ghost stories which are actually related to their family. That is what this book is about. And honestly, when I started researching for this video, a lot of bloggers were talking about this book. I did not see much traction about this book on Amazon, sort of, but a lot of bloggers had good reviews about this book, so I just put it into this list. If you have read any of these books, or if you know a nice Indian horror novel, Hindi, I see that there are so many Hindi Indian horror novels, but again, I could not find a lot to catch up on, a lot to learn from that, so that I can make a decision on whether I want to include it in a video or not. So I do not know much, but if you are a book lover and if you want people to read more Indian horror novels and just promote the genre, because if we do that, more and more authors will come forward and write good horror novels. So, we are actually helping ourselves by helping authors out and by talking more about Indian horror books. So if you want that, just comment down below and start talking. There are so many people who will read these comments, and even if you're able to help one person out, that is worth it. Trust me. I always make my videos thinking that if I'm able to help one person out, or entertain one person with my video, or educate them, then it's worth it. And that is what you should also think while commenting. So comment right now, and if you're watching until now, comment below in caps with horror novels. And yes, thank you so much for watching this video. I hope it was worth it. And yes, I have to say it again because I can't help it. even though there's a lot of interest in Indian horror novels of the readers, there is not much we have in terms of options. We do not have anything like Stephen King novels, or we do not even have something like, which I haven't, like The Haunting of Hill House or Frankenstein, anything gothic horror, psychological horror. But with the Indian touch, I really hope this changes over time and we do get a lot of proper horror novels that are not just short stories. Not that I have anything against short stories, apart from that, I personally enjoy them lesser than proper novels. But yes, I have high hopes from this. Fingers crossed, and thank you so much for watching this video. This is Minby signing off. I hope you really enjoyed it, and I'll be back with another video very soon.